All right, and we're live, and you guys are live. All right, we have 6 on. Info Brothers is in the house. We have a new guy, Star Liquid, and he is ready for action. So, holy smokes, I'm not even ready for a live stream, and that's the truth. Uh, so, I gotta tell you guys this. I was homesick for 2 days. Um, I just had this like head cold, and I was all stuffed up the first day. I was home, and it wasn't too bad, but I have asthma, and I didn't want it to go into my lungs. Well, the next day, oh, it was a lot worse. It was a lot worse. But today I went to work, right, and I actually feel pretty doggone good. I do. I mean, I feel great. Space Hobos 527 is in the house. It's good to see you, brother. So, I got to tell you guys this. I forgot about my live stream because I had 2 days off. I'm off on my day, and I was looking for a knife. I got off work, and I need to get a knife. Look this up. It's the Boker Magnum Damascus Bone. That's what I want. Went over to Sportsman's, went over to another place, and they didn't have it. Got home, and my wife, she's got spaghetti cooking. I get ready to eat, and I said, I've got a live stream. And she looked at me. And, she looked at me like, how could you forget? No, she didn't. She just looked at me like, ah! So here I am. And honestly, I don't feel like pulling the handle. I don't. I don't. I could go get everything ready. I got some 30-06 brass here. It's all annealed. It's ready to go. I could resize it, and we could make a really cool dummy round. But I don't feel like it. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do? I don't even know how to reload. I mean, I was like, well, and then I thought about it. I don't have to do anything. I don't. Why? Well, it's simple. I don't have to do anything because I have my man card. If you guys get online and order a man card, you get by so much more than just guys that aren't men. Okay? So I got to thinking, well, what am I going to do this show on? Because you guys are awesome, and I think I should have some content. So I got this bottle of water. I decided to kill the earth a little more with this bottle of water. And then I got this. We killed some trees for this book way back when. Now, if I was you guys, I would go to eBay really quick, and I would try and find one of these small arms lexicon encyclopedia. It's called the Small Arms Lexicon and Concise Encyclopedia. Oh yeah, I have 4 of them because I use them. And you thought I didn't have content. Jeez. So pretty quick, I'm going to call you guys all out because we got, Tactical FUD comes crashing through the door. Behind him comes Del Pogue. Bombatat comes through the door. Double barrel shotgun. Right? D-Dub 37 says, get out of my house. right? Andy 79C28. Ha ha. It's good to see you, Andy. So okay, I do have some content for you, but it's just knowledge. It's gonna make you think. It's just the garbage I have up here. Okay. Knox Spectre is in the house. We'll let a few more get on. I'll do roll call. So, what are we going to talk about? A number of things. We could talk about some stuff in this book. Give you an idea of what's in this book. This book, Small Arms Lexicon and Concise Encyclopedia. If you keep your eyes open on eBay, you'll see them come up. Tacos and French fries. Good to see you, brother. What's this book about? Well, what is absolute deviation? Absolute deviation. The distance between the center of a target and the point where the projectile hits. Here's your target. Here's where you hit. That is absolute deviation. Okay? Absolute deviation. That's what that is. Let me read it again. The distance between the center of a target and the point where the projectile hits or bursts. Okay? Absolute error. The shortest distance between the center of impact of a group of shots and the point of impact of a single shot. Let me read that again. The shortest distance between the center of an impact of a group of shots. So you have a group of shots. You're going to take the center average of that, right? And the point of impact of a single shot. That's your absolute error, okay? So, smokeless propellant. What do we know about smokeless propellant? It was made in the 1880s, right? It was the replacement for black powder. Not that it replaced it, but somewhat replaced it, right? So it's a smokeless powder. No. It is smokeless. Smokeless propellant is smoke. It's not smokeless. It's just that it doesn't put out the amount of smoke that black powder puts out. Why is it called a smokeless propellant? Because it propels the projectile. Now, a bullet's a bullet, and a projectile's a projectile, and they can both be the same thing. But commonly, a bullet is referred to as a projectile when it's in motion. It's not incorrect to call a bullet a projectile, whether it's in motion or not. Okay, here's a definition of projectile. Generally, any object projected by the exterior force and continuing to travel by its own inertia. In the firearms usage, it is any object fired from a weapon by the force of an explosive propelling charge, such as a bullet, shell, rocket, or grenade. Ballistically, such an object does not become a projectile until it's in flight. So, if I said I have a box of projectiles, no, these aren't in flight. A bullet is a bullet, and a projectile is a projectile. A bullet is a bullet, and a projectile is a bullet in flight. Process that. Correctness, 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 right? I can't really see the comments too good. Yes, that's true, Andy. Yeah, yeah. Because a projectile can be something that's moving from an external force, right? A rock can be a projectile, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so smokeless propellant. We have single base, we have double base. Single base derived from nitrocellulose. Double base would be nitrocellulose with nitroglycerin. The nitroglycerin gives it a little oomph. I would imagine that this is Andy's wheelhouse because of the job that he performs. I'm just guessing, because I'm just a regular guy. This is what's in my head. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I could be wrong. Okay. So smokeless propellant. See, it's got graphite. Why does smokeless propellant? Why does smokeless propellant have graphite? You guys will hear me say that. You'll hear me say when I am priming a powder measure, it's new, or I just want, maybe I got some static, and so I throw some graphite in there and I run it through there, and I say, you can do that because smokeless propellant has graphite too. Most of it. Why? Why would smokeless propellant have graphite? Smokeless propellant has graphite for the handling of it. That's why. Smokeless propellant is much safer to handle and manufacture than black powder. Okay, it's a lot. It's a lot safer. Okay. Um, so, what do you say we do roll call? We got 16 on. I want everybody to type. I want you to type this. It's a bullet until it's in motion. It's a bullet until it's in motion. And I'll call you out. I can only imagine what Andy's going to type. Star Liquid is in the house. Bomb Dad. Andy 79Z28. Rex Chandler. Info Brothers. Grizz3, my good buddy Grizz3. Brother, I miss you. MSB 9021. Uncle Milty, James Wright. Guys, welcome James Wright. Steve M. Oh my gosh. I would have expected that from Steve M. Tommy Boy. Bobby Barlow. Dale Pogue. Andre D'Angelo. Okay. So, my good buddy Steve M. I've missed you. It's good to see you. So, propellant, smokeless propellant. Does smokeless propellant explode? Does it explode? I want to know. Space Hobos 527 is in the house. Does smokeless propellant explode? I always heard it burns. Well, black powder burns and it explodes. We got no. Okay, it burns. It produces gas and it expands. We got David Goldberg in the house. The gases expand so fast. Okay, so for fun, I used to take dry ice and put it in big cola bottles, and then I'd pour the cola in it and cap it, throw it, and it would swell up and swell up. And when it blew, right, because of these gases expanding, right? So a smokeless propellant, it expands so fast that we have the boom. Okay. Yes. And that's why it's an accelerant, a propellant. It's expansion. Okay. That's what takes the bullet, turns it into a projectile. We're now propelling the bullet. It's a projectile. Okay. So I'm just reading through the comments. Man, you guys are awesome. This was a good idea because it kind of gets interaction. It gets us thinking, right? So black powder is an explosive, right? Chair Bear Tactical. Good evening, brother. All right, what else we have here? What else we have in our book? Our book of many things. Okay. I've seen some. Here's one for Andy. Antimony. Antimony, what is that? A brittle, lustrous white metal element whose chemical symbol is capital S, lowercase b. When added to lead or a lead alloy, it adds strength and hardness. A small quantity, say 0.2% added to lead, produces the common lead shot composition. Wow. Put this in life. I have a bag going over my shoulder. You could call it a purse. Steve M will call it a purse, but it's not. It's a bag. Steve, and it's leather, Steve, and it's black. It looks really good. But as I go through life, I put stuff in there. And if I got to refer to it, I just look in there and go through everything and I find it, right? And as I'm looking through there, I'll find my purple fingernail polish, you know, some man purse, right? Yeah. So I put stuff in this bag. So here's one for your bag. Antimony. If you ask someone, what does antimony do for your bullet? They'll say it hardens it. That's incorrect. It adds strength and hardens it. Right? Here's one for you. You guys have fun with this. My wife and I, we love to look for antiques. But you know how loosely that word is used? Antiques? Antique. Old or ancient. Kind of like Andy. He's like, hey, I boy, that's it. That's it. Old or ancient. Okay. Firearms manufactured prior to 1900 are generally considered antiques, although certain firearm laws may specify otherwise. Kind of strange that some firearm laws could dictate what is and isn't antique, which means if it's an antique firearm, but they won't categorize it as a modern, or if it's old and ancient, but they won't categorize it as antique, it must have been capable of putting out a whole bunch of rounds every minute. Okay. So a firearm, if you have an antique firearm, it has to be prior to 1900s or it's not an antique. Like, so I like to collect older firearms, but you'll never hear me say I collect antique firearms. That's different, you know. So vintage. Mom and Dad got it. Okay, but it's okay to say, you know, my wife and me, we like to, you know, collect antiques. We understand on a loose side of what that means, right? But come on, a Tonka truck from 1965 is not antique. It's vintage. Okay, go to eBay and you'll see that people don't. If I was going to put it on eBay, if I'm talking to you, I'm going to say, yeah, we like to collect antiques. I got an old vintage Tonka. Hey, if I put that on eBay, the word antique isn't going to be anywhere. But people, they misabuse that, right? So go on Gunbroker and see how many people have a firearm from 1940 that call it antique. It's not antique. That's incorrect. It's very incorrect, okay? Aperture sight. What's an aperture sight? I love what Space Hobo's put. Hi, boy. You make fun of Andy as though you could consider your friendship with one another. Yes, me and Andy, we could do a show where like we're both in wheelchairs and we're like just honoring to each other, but we're best of friends, you know. So Critter has a vintage Chevrolet truck, a vintage. Okay, an aperture sight is a metallic sight, usually the rear. Why is it the rear? Usually the rear sight having a small hole to look through in aiming the gun to which it is affixed, also called a Peep sight. Why is it called a peep sight? Why is it called an aperture sight? Why is this sight to the rear? It's because it forces your eye to look through the center of that hole, and you will see what's behind it. People that have a hard time shooting rifles put a peep sight on there, and normally it corrects it, even if they're right eye, left hand dominant. Okay, it's a very good sight, very effective sight. Okay, aperture sight. Okay. There was one. What was it? There was one. It was a really good one too. I was reading. Oh, accuracy life. This isn't the one I was looking for, but accuracy life for a firearm is estimated average number of rounds that may be fired in a particular gun before it becomes inaccurate because of normal wear. Normal wear. Accuracy life. Estimated average number of rounds that may be fired in a particular gun before it becomes inaccurate because of normal wear. Okay. So if we said, I bought a gun, how many rounds will I get through a particular firearm? You can't answer that. Are you shooting factory? Are you reloading? Because I'll guarantee you, Andy has a 30-06 and I have a 30-06. And he's running some pretty reduced pressure loads, and I'm not. I guarantee you he's going to get a lot more out of his 30-06 than I will mine. This brings me to this. How many times can I reload a particular cartridge case? Well, I don't know. What if you are shooting a 44 Magnum, but lower velocities, and I'm running full house loads? That's different, right? It's all different. What if we're both shooting a big old 30-06, I know, 300 PRC, and your powder is burning a little faster than mine? So my powder and my PRC, it's burning slower, and it's reaching its peak pressure somewhat down the muzzle, and yours is max pressure is closer to the chamber. Well, now you're gonna burn your chamber out faster than mine. You're gonna be harder on your cases. So we don't know how many rounds we're going to get out of our rifle. We don't know how many rounds we're going to get out of a cartridge case. The only way you would really know is to shoot one round only through that firearm, or one load only through that case, and track them. Past that, it's all an average, and it's all a guess. We really can't say, well, you're going to get this many rounds out of a particular firearm, right? There was another one. I don't remember what it was. I guess it wasn't that important. Huh. Well, we'll just keep going. There's got to be some more good stuff in this book. Oh, I know what it was. An action. What's an action? On a firearm, what is the action? Do we have any? Andy. Andy. When it comes to a firearm, what's the definition of an action? Well, sometimes we can think of the moving parts, such as a revolver, whether it's single action or double action. We think of the moving parts, the hammer, the trigger spring, hammer spring, the associated pins and screws. We think of the action. Okay, that's not the action. Single action or double action, we use that to describe the actions of the moving parts. But the action is the breech mechanism of a firearm by which it is loaded, fired, and unloaded. Right? Let me show you the picture. Okay, you see the picture. And there's your definition. The breech mechanism of a firearm by which it is loaded, fired, and unloaded. The term action is broader than the term lock, which designates only the firing mechanism, not the loading and unloading mechanism. Okay, what does that second part mean? Yeah, because I operate off pictures. I'm a picture guy. Okay, lock. Okay, flintlock, right? Guys, I'm not a pro. Okay, I'm not a pro. I'm a normal guy, but I read. You know, I don't always put it in the right context, but I got the grasp. The firing mechanism of a muzzle loader. In a breech loader, usually the firing mechanism. The lock is the firing mechanism. The lock does not include the loading and unloading. Okay? Oh, you're so funny, Michael Turner. This isn't a pro. This is a flunky channel. Total flunky, okay? But I am about knowledge. I'm a knowledge person. That's me. And I know that's you guys. Everyone hungers for knowledge. You know, we do. At least reloaders do. Steve M does. Lots of knowledge for Steve M. Because he looks good in a man bag. And he knows it. Western Ops. Oh, I owe you a phone call. Western Ops actually lives in my neck of the woods. I owe you a phone call. And I know I do. Do me a favor. If I don't text you by tomorrow, shoot me a text. Because, well, I got to work Saturday. I owe you a phone call. Okay. Double action, single action. Revolvers. What's that mean? Does a single action mean that you can only cock it to fire it? And does a double action mean that you can cock it to fire and then you can pull the trigger to fire? No, that's not what that means. A single action revolver means the trigger can only perform one function, and that is dropping the hammer. A double action revolver is the trigger performs two functions. The trigger can drop the hammer upon cocking it, and the trigger can cycle the hammer. So on a single action, people say a single action because you have to cock it to shoot it. Well, that's kind of half right. The correct terminology is a single action revolver is a single action revolver because the trigger performs one function. That trigger can only drop the hammer. A double action revolver, the trigger can drop the hammer and the trigger can cycle the hammer. Okay. That's a good one. The function is called the unloader part of the gun. I didn't know that. See, we're all learning, right? Yeah, let me put that in my bag of things, right? The function is called the unloader part of the gun. Expand on that, would you? Andy, would you tell us more? We want to hear. I'm serious. The function is called the unloader part of the gun. I'm going to look through this while we wait on that. Here's the oldest reloading equipment manufacturer in the world. Who knows? That makes sense. Thank you. That's awesome. It unloads the cartridge. Bingo. That's what we are. We're just not shooters. We're cartridge unloaders. Yeah. Lyman, the trademark for sights, chokes, and bullet casting equipment made by the Lyman Gun Sight Corporation. Lyman started out making gun sights, then bullet casting, and then guess what else came? And they have their new all-American, well, that turret press is new, but the all-American, that's what Lyman's always been. They just didn't coin that when they changed their equipment. They've always been all-American, right? You know, like we say bullet, projectile. It's kind of like magazine, clip, right? What's the difference between a magazine and a clip? A clip facilitates. Oh, it's not a clip. It's a cartridge clip. A cartridge clip. Like it's not a case. This isn't a case. It's a cartridge case. We load it. The gun unloads it. It has to have something to go in. It's a cartridge case, okay? Oh, wait. Okay. Here's a cartridge clip. In the strictest sense, a clip is a mechanical device that is designated to facilitate the loading of a number of shells into the magazine. The military frequently called this device the stripper clip. In Great Britain, it's also known as the charger or charger clip. A cartridge feeding device that contains a spring and a follower is more correctly called a magazine. Okay? So a cartridge clip would be like you have the clip for the M1 Garand, the clip. I'm forgetting the name of it. Never have a stroke. Ever since my stroke, I forget things. What do you call a clip for the M1 Garand? Oh my gosh. Steve M will tell me. So will Andy. I've only got a whole drawer full of them. Okay. So, someone will tell me. Gotta love those strippers. End block. I was going to say end block. I was that close. End block. Okay. Thank you, Mama Dad. An end block is a clip, but you know what it doesn't have? It doesn't have a follower. A magazine has a follower, and it's that follower that feeds. Okay? So, when you go and ask for a clip, I know a couple of shops around here, and they say every time someone asks for a clip, they give them a clip. And then the person will look at them like, and they go, well, what did you want? And they wait until they say magazine, and that's how they educate people, right? So you've got a clip and you've got a magazine. Okay. Great Britain, they could be what? Charger clips, right? Okay. Here's one for you. A cartridge case. The container that holds the propelling charge, and in fixed ammunition, it also holds a projectile and a primer. In addition to its accommodation of a projectile powder and primer, it serves to act as a gas seal to prevent the rearward escape of powder gas, made of copper, brass, steel, paper, or plastic, depending upon use, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's interesting. So now, did you know that if you start referring to this as a cartridge case as opposed to a cartridge or a case, you're more correct. Cartridge case. Now, notice they referred to our bullet as a projectile in this. So you're not necessarily wrong. That's why I say you're not wrong, but you're more right. Bullet is non-moving, projectile is moving in the strictest sense, okay? But what else did it say? What's the job? The job of this cartridge case is to seal gases from coming backwards in the chamber. Aha, right? Okay, here's a case gauge. A case gauge. A jig-like tool that is used to check cartridge casings for length or diameter, or both. To check length or diameter. The diameter. The correct diameter, okay? The dimensional diameter. Manufacturers inspect newly made cases with such devices. The practice of reloading fired casings makes this tool especially important to hand loading enthusiasts because brass casings tend to stretch under repeated firings and resizing. Wow. Did you catch that? Let me read it again. The practice of reloading fired casings makes this tool especially important to hand loading because, here it is, brass casings tend to stretch under repeated firings and resizing. You ever hear people say, why does my brass stretch? Why does my brass grow? And people will give all these answers. Well, the book just gave us. There's two reasons: repeated firing and resizing. Repeated firing because our gas, our smokeless propellant, is expanding. It's hot. It's forcing the brass, so it's going to lengthen. Then it's going to slightly retract, get extracted, and ejected out. And we come along and we resize it. But guess what happens? It grows lengthwise because it's being cold formed and it has to go somewhere. It can't go down because it's on a shell holder, so it grows in length. So brass grows because of repeated firing and resizing. That's why. Okay. Oh, brass will grow if you feed it. Great. I'll put that in my man bag. Okay. Here's one for you, just so you know. Case harden. Sometimes referred to as case carburizing or cementation. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The formation of a very hard carbon steel skin, shell, or case to the outer surface of wrought iron, malleable iron, or carbon steel by treatment with a carbon-rich medium under high temperatures. The depth of this resultant skin or case generally varies between 5 and 7 thousandths. In gun making and carbon-rich medium, called a carbonizing agent, most often consists of a form of animal charcoal such as bone, dust, charred horn, or charred leather. Case hardening is generally used only on gun parts that are vulnerable to surface wear. And that's something. So sometimes you'll see firearms that look case hardened, but it's just a chemical to make it appear that way. But case hardening, okay. Hey, Mike Meeks in the house. Andy, you're too nice. Thank you, brother. Anyway, that's interesting. Case hardening actually hardens it. Hardens it. Here it is. Case hardening is generally used only on gun parts that are vulnerable to surface wear. Case head. What's a case head? The head or base of a cartridge case. That portion of the casing into which the primer is fitted. The case head. The case head is where the head stamp is. The case head is where the primer is seated. The case head is where the spent primer is decapped from. That end is not the head of the case. That's the mouth of the case. Some cases have little mouths. Some cases have very big mouths, okay? A 50 calibers can have a very big mouth, okay? Case head, case mouth, case shoulder, okay? Case, shortened term for cartridge case. Remember when we read the definition of a cartridge clip and it said in the strictest form? This is a case, but in its strictest form, it's a cartridge case, okay? Okay, here we go. A case trimmer. We all know what a case trimmer is. It trims our brass. A case trimmer is a tool. Fair enough. A case trimmer is a tool for cutting back the necks of cartridge cases that have been lengthened beyond prescribed dimensions through repeated firing and reloading. Oh, the cases are growing from repeated firings and repeated resizing. And so we take a tool and we cut the neck back. We don't cut the, well, you could say we cut the mouth back, but you still have the mouth. We're trimming the neck, right? But we can say I'm trimming the mouth. We get it. Cast bullets. And Obama did, I hate that. I don't mean like the president. I'm just like, oh, you, Obama dad. That's the worst insult. Oh, I hate that. I'm sorry, Obama dad. Oh, so he says, but it's really a cartridge case trimmer. And he said it in the strictest sense. Oh my gosh, he's got my number. He will hunt me down. Okay, cast bullets. Here we go. Bullets made by casting a lead alloy in a mold. The lead used is often melted with small amounts of tin or antimony. What does antimony do? It strengthens and hardens. Mom and Dad, because I say, it's like saying, oh, so I say, oh, and then Mama. I mean, it's just setting me up, man, for a terrible freaking live stream. But it is kind of funny, Oh, man. Okay. So it has antimony. Remember, antimony, oh, they didn't mention zinc. That's right. I want to look at something. So we're going to bring this together here. I want to see something. Okay. We looked at antimony. Antimony strengthens and hardens the lead. What does tin do? Tin is a soft, ductile, and malleable, lustrous white metal. When we're talking ductile and malleable, like brass, it can be formed, right? Whose element chemical is S, capital S, lowercase n. It has a relatively low melting point and is extensively used as an alloy with other metals in tin plating and other metals. In the firearms art, it's used in bronze, solders, and Babbitt metals is best known. My brain. It's I won't include the last part. Okay. So it has a relatively low melting point and is extensively used as an alloy with other metals and in tin plating of other metals. Okay. So now I'm gonna read cast. Okay. So it has both tin and antimony, depending on the degree of hardness desired. Cast bullets are used in low velocity weapons because the heat and pressures generated by high velocity cartridges tend to melt or deform them before they clear the barrel. The hard alloy cup, called the gas check, fitted to the base of the lead bullet, tends to protect it from heat and pressure and permits some increase in powder charge and resultant velocity. However, these pressures and velocities are still far below those employed in propelling fully jacketed bullets. Cast bullets are most often sized and lubricated after casting, which we knew most of that. Hey, it was just a good read. Primers. You can shoot zinc bullets faster than jacketed bullets. Okay, primers. Primers are so hard to find. So we need a particular primer. We're looking for a particular primer, and then we see match. I need a small pistol primer. I'm looking for it. Then I see a match small pistol primer, right? And then someone says, well, I think that my friend told me that if I use Magnum primers with a certain load, it'll perform better. Blah, blah, blah. Will it? Won't it? I don't know. What will it do? Ask Burton Siliker. He just showed up. He can tell us. He's like, primers. How do they work? I wonder if this has the definition for brisance. Brisance is the shattering effect of an object. I wonder what this says. Here's a good one. Brinell hardness test. A means of measuring the relative hardness of metals by the application of a specified load upon a hardness steel ball of known diameter resting on a surface of a metal being tested and measuring the resulting area of the indentation. You process that. No. Oh, there it is. I was spelling it wrong. The shattering power of a high explosive. Okay. So brisance is the shattering power of a high explosive, but it can be also the shattering effect of an explosive. So a primer has shattering effect. Okay. I always explain it like this, I suppose. In the engineering world, I'm not correct. I suppose someone would laugh at me that really knew. Look, I'm not an engineer. Okay. It's just how I see it. Think of your primer as it's going to, okay, on our powder. When our powder burns, it doesn't burn like a fuse, starting here and ending up here. we want a complete ignition. When we burn powder from this side to this side, that can actually cause very dangerous pressure curves. That's a bad thing. So a primer has a shattering effect. And think of your primer as just going to spit embers. And these embers are going to shatter the powder. So you have a cartridge case, you've got powder in there. And that primer is going to shatter, the primer is going to shatter the powder, and it's going to deliver the embers, and then it's going to ignite all at once. Henceforth, burning deterrents that they put on powders. Powders have a burning deterrent. They can control that burn rate through temperature, this type of thing, right? So some primers have more brisance than others. So if you're shooting a 38 special load with minimal charges, and you're using a Magnum primer and it's overthrowing the powder, now your powder is going to burn backwards and you got these inconsistent internal pressures. So that's why you want to match the primer. It doesn't mean that you can't experiment with a Magnum primer, but primers have a specific purpose based on their brisance. Okay. A match primer is a primer that when they're applying the compound to the primer, it's more consistent. It would be kind of like this. Just as an analogy, a primer that's not a match primer would be a primer that they are applying the compound through a machine on these primers, much in the same way that you might be running your Dillon where it's just throwing the powder, okay? Or you're running a standalone powder measure and you're just sitting there cycling, one after the other, whereas a match primer, that's like when you throw low and trickle up perfect. A match primer, the priming compound is going to be more consistent from primer to primer to primer than a standard primer, okay? So differentiating between a Magnum primer and a non-Magnum, would say a Magnum primer and a standard primer. Differentiating between a match primer and a non-match primer, you would say match primer, right? And standard primer, okay? But one behind the counter says, were you wanting a match primer? No, I just want a standard primer. Oh, did you want a Magnum primer? No, just a standard, okay? Oh, is Andy going? Hey, Andy, it's good to see you, brother. You have a good night. Go, Andy. Go, Andy. So I hope that this is a kind of an interesting live stream. I was eating my spaghetti, and I said, I just don't feel like sizing brass. I don't. And that's another thing. A lot of times, I will tell you why I don't reload. It's not that I don't want to reload, but sometimes I would rather read on the topic more than I want to reload. You got to spend a healthy amount of time reading and getting educated, okay? So, primers. John Moses Browning, who was he? An American gunsmith said to be the inventor and designer of more successful firearms than any other American. Among the numerous weapons of his design, He perhaps is best known for his heavy machine gun and his light automatic rifle, both being military weapons. John M. Browning also achieved considerable success with his designs for automatic pistols, lever action rifles, slide action 22 rifles, slide action shotguns, automatic recoil operated shotguns, and over and under shotgun. What a brilliant man. In my life, I've always thought if I could have the intelligence of any person, and the ingenuity, it would be John Moses Browning. See, we all have a different IQ. People with a medium IQ, well, they read average and they can put nuts and bolts together pretty good. Okay. But when you start getting up there in the higher IQ range, some people with really high IQs, they have a hard time turning a screwdriver. John Moses Browning was a person that is super high IQ, and he was very mechanically outfitted. He had everything, right? That's funny, Obama, Dad, BD. I'm gonna start calling you BD. I'll say, oh, BD. Okay, was there a question? Does it take more firing pin force to ignite a Magnum primer? No. Mark Thomas is right. It just burns a little hotter. It takes more firing pin force to ignite a rifle primer. Why? What came first, the horse or the cart? People say, well, why? Why would the rifle primer be so thick? People will say because a rifle firing pin strikes so much harder. No, they could design a rifle firing pin to strike lightly. A rifle produces so much more internal chamber pressures that you have to have a thicker cup. Therefore, you have to have a robust firing pin system. See, some people think it's the other way around, right? They think, oh, the primer had to be thicker because rifles have a heavy firing pin. They had to adapt the rifle to the pressures. Handguns don't have those pressures. Okay, BD. Gonna take a break. Okay. Here's one. A brush is a barrel bore cleaning tool, generally made of brass or bristle for use in cleaning fouling from the bore. So a brush, a cleaning brush. A barrel bore cleaning tool generally made of brass or bristle for use in cleaning fouling from the bore. Okay. So I have like brass and then I have nylon. You can use brass for Hoppies number 9 for more mild solvents. But when you get into the powerful stuff like Montana Extreme, their solvents, the ammonia, will eat brass. They'll just eat it up. So you got to use a nylon brush for that. Okay. I would never use a nylon brush with Hoppies. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be very, very frustrated. And I have had guys that they've texted me and they've said, I've spent this many hours scrubbing my bore and my cylinder. I can't get my leading out. And I ask them, what are you using as a solvent and what are you using as a brush? And they'll say, well, I got some Hoppies and I got these nylon brushes. And I say, well, yeah, the Hoppies might be okay, but go to a brass brush. Now, hang on to that nylon, because if the brass brush won't cut it, then you're going to have to go to Montana Extreme and get some cowboy solvent, and it'll knock that leading out. Okay. So one question on a nickel plated revolver. What would you use to clean your nickel plated revolver with? I'm not asking about the brush. I'm asking about the application. What would you use to clean a nickel plated firearm? The T-Mac rifle cartridges have more powder, maybe needs more heat. And so we got the T-Mac in the house. We got SD3 gunner. Man, we got a good crowd on. So if you've got a nickel-plated revolver or a shotgun, what would you use to clean it? That's it. I got to get something. Always ready for my good buddy. If you're going to clean if you get a really nice Smith & Wesson Model 29 or a Model 19 and it's a nickel plated, you do not want to use solvent. Use a CLP. Solvent, nickel plating gets microscopic cracks. And solvent has the ability to get under those cracks and it'll start lifting the nickel off the barreled steel. And next thing you know, you're losing the nickel. Okay. So if you get a nickel firearm, you want to clean it with CLP. And if you ever buy a firearm, you want to inspect the muzzle, the crown, those kind of places to make sure the nickel isn't coming off. That means someone was probably using a solvent on it and they shouldn't have. Okay. Oh, I got your Rugers, buddy. Okay, so a bulged barrel. What's a bulged barrel? A barrel enlarged at a place along its length because of the abnormally high pressure built up in the bore by reason of an obstruction that prevents the normal passage of the projectile and following gases out of the barrel. So that's kind of like almost a reloader's nightmare. The real nightmare is getting a projectile in the bore, stuck, and then following it up with a full house round. So the bulge comes from if you are running too low of a load, you pull the trigger and the projectile gets stuck. Now let me read this. A barrel enlarged at the place along its length because of the abnormally high pressure built up by the bore by reason of an obstruction that prevents the normal passage of the projectile and following gases out the barrel. So, okay, we get a bullet stuck in the bore. We hate that. But the worst nightmare is we come along with another bullet behind it. Well, what can happen is all of a sudden you look and you got a bulge in your barrel. Okay, I've never had one. I've stuck bullets in bores and I've stacked bullets up in bores, but what I've never done is caused a bulge. Now, there's two scenarios that can happen. One, I stacked my projectiles, had 5 of them in a bore because I was shooting very low velocity loads. But when I was shooting those, I was shooting them kind of like in the warmer weather. And then one night, like about 11 o'clock, pitch dark, kind of colder out. I thought that I would kind of like be out in the desert, you know, shooting a little critter at night. And so I was out, and then I'm shooting. Well, guess what? I'm shooting by the moonlight, and I really can't see where my bullets are hitting. And guess what? I had no way to verify that they weren't exiting. And so I stacked them up in the barrel. Okay. They didn't bulge because they were such low velocities and it was so cold out that it was affecting the burn rate of my powder. It was just, I was right there on that cliff of where it drops off. But if it would have been a little more, I could have bulged the barrel. Okay. That's one scenario where they're all just too low a pressure. And guys, that's been probably 20 years ago, I guess. A long time. The other scenario is you're running pretty decent pressures, but one of them is a reduced charge. You didn't get the full charge in there. Well, that can either blow it up if it's just too much, or it's not enough to blow it up, but when it hits that pressure, it just does this to the barrel. You got a nice little, guess what you need? You need a new barrel. Okay, you ruined it. It'll never be the same, trust me, okay? I've never done that. I'm so glad. I've never destroyed a gun. I've never destroyed a gun. I've never hurt myself reloading. I'm so glad for that. It can happen. It can happen. Okay. Because we have human error. Okay. I'm not afraid of fear. See, that's what gets us. If you're not afraid, if you don't have fear, guys, I fear what can happen when I don't do things right at the bench. When you have that fear, it's a healthy fear, that's what keeps you from doing wrong things, okay? Don't think for an instant that there hasn't been times in my life where I've been reloading some rounds and I was looking at them and I was like, I don't know. Did I mess these up? I'm not 100%. Guess what? I start pulling bullets. I start pulling bullets. Okay. I can remember something. This was a long time ago. Let me kind of think about how long ago this was. This was like 30 years ago. I remember I was reloading. I want to say it was 357 Magnum. And I had loaded a whole batch. And I kept getting distracted. And when I got done, I was like, I got done, emptied my powder measures, put everything away. Then I was like, what recipe did I just run? And I went to the book. I was like, I don't think that's what I threw for a charge. I don't think that's what I threw. I don't think. I got so pissed off, I threw them all away. I didn't even pull a bullet. I was like, I was going to sit there and pull every bullet. But I had this little shed. The lighting was horrible. It was like I was going to go off-roading in the next morning. And I was just in such a hurry. Like, I remember I was getting my truck all ready. I was going to put these loads together. And I was like, I could hurt myself. I don't know what's in those. And I remember I threw them away. And I was like, so I remember I took a shower and went to bed. And I was laying there going, I had to go dig those out. I had to dig those out. It was eating me and eating me and eating me. And the next day I got up early, went off-roading. And today I look back, I'm pretty glad I threw those away. I guess I should have pulled the bullets, but I had a lot of bullets. I had a lot of bullets, had a lot of brass, powder primers. That wasn't my problem. My problem is I wasn't paying attention and I didn't have the time. I should have never stopped to do it. So that's what I'm telling you. If you can't guarantee what's in those, you don't shoot them. Whether you're going to throw them all away or you're going to pull them apart, you don't shoot them. You don't know that they're right. You know what? And then here's the deal. If you got this gut feeling that's saying, don't shoot them, don't shoot them. Because that ego of not shooting them is easier to deal with than hurting your ego of hurting yourself shooting them, right? So, I'm just telling you, it can really happen. When we're young, I off-roaded and shot on the weekends, right? So guess when you're going to fix your truck and do your reloading? All week after work. As late as you got to stay up. You got a million things going through your mind. And right when you think you can remember every bit of that, guess what? That's how you get hurt, right? So don't ever put yourself down because you can't guarantee what you did. And that's why over the years, every time I would make a mistake, I would think back to like when my dad was kind of pretty hard on me. But I thought, that's why he told me, lay your components out and then go through everything again and have the correct charge weight wrote down and double check it. My dad used to say, double check it, right? That's why. Hey, I know if you're vague on what charge you're going to run, stop and actively take a look at what you're doing. Don't passively reload, actively reload. If the radio is a distraction, turn it off. If children are a distraction, they come first. Find another time to reload. If you have 5 kids, they take priority over your ammunition. If you have 1 kid, he takes priority over your ammunition. You love the little ones first, and you figure out a time when you can sit down in little stages in the evening and complete it, or on a Saturday or a weekend. You structure it that way. You're not going to set yourself up for failure, okay? Yeah, I can only afford to do this once. I think I know what you're saying. Anyway, I don't know if we're going to go much further here, guys. I'm going to read caliber, the definition of a caliber. The diameter of the bore of a gun, which in rifled bores is the diameter of the land surfaces. It is expressed in decimals of an inch or in millimeters. American gun makers have not always produced guns having the exact caliber by which they are designated by their makers. This is the second definition. The diameter of a projectile, although ballistically it may be used to express comparative dimensions. Thus, a bullet of 3 calibers has the length 3 times its diameter. Some of this stuff just goes above your head, okay? Okay, then it starts getting into cannons, okay? The diameter of the bore of a gun, which in rifled bore is the diameter of the land surfaces. Get online, look up caliber, look up lands, right? Look up rifling and learn what the lands are, what the rifling is, okay? So there we go, guys. I'm going to stop there. I thought that was a pretty good live stream, and it was different, you know. So was this a good live stream? Let me know. I never, ever want to waste someone's time. One of the things about me is I like to learn. And it doesn't matter how long I've been doing something. If I'm going to continue doing it, I want to continue to learn, right? All right. Dad, he enjoyed it. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I always think that if I want my live streams to be about reloading, it's okay to have, non-reloading information as you go, but I think the content should be reloading. MSB. Thanks, MSB. Time not wasted. Great live stream. Great people all around. Darn right. You guys are the best, all of you. And we have 21 on. All right, Space Hobos. Very informative. That's what I want. T-Mac. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. So there we go, guys. That was my live stream. So some things I'm going to be working on is I was going to be working on these cases tonight for my M1 Garand. That is going to be next week, and we'll take it all the way through to a dummy round. But then I think after that, I'm going to, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have a guest on, really neat guy, and we will be loading for our M1 Garand. And I think we'll have topics. pressures relating to the M1 Garand. I'll be working out of the Hornady manual. So for about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be in the M1 Garand, but then I'm going to shift to my Mosin Nagant. And then after a time of that, maybe a month, then I'll shift to my SKS. So I got some pretty good stuff. Through all that, I'm going to try and get some guests on here. And I'm going to have some giveaways. I think next week, I'm pretty sure next week, I'm going to have a giveaway. So follow my channel. But now, the giveaway won't be on the channel. It will be on the forum. So go to 76highboy.com. You have to be a member on the forum. I will be giving the instructions on how to win in the live stream, but you got to go to the forum to win. Okay. So I got some pretty good stuff going on. I'm also kind of thinking I might start getting into a little bit of 40 caliber, a little 40 cal action. And in the meantime, as it warms up, I'm going to be reporting back on my 300 PRC. I got a lot going on, but that's okay. I like it. All right, here we go. I want Space Hobos, thank you very much. You know what? I never ask for, I never ask for thumbs ups because I just feel that my content should just be good enough that someone will want to. But I want to thank you guys for your thumbs ups. I do appreciate that. I really do, because it means I'm doing something right, So, if you create a message, look for a message from me when you create an account on the forum. Absolutely. Okay, here we go. I want everyone to type your favorite ice cream, and I'll call you out. Here we go. Your favorite ice cream, and I'll call you out. And I'm on a diet. I've been doing really good too. I don't know if I'm losing weight, but at least I'm dieting, Favorite ice cream, and I'll call you out. Oh man, Bombadad. Rocky Road. That's my favorite. Critter 9A Strawberry. Uncle Milty Pistachio. Ooh, here we go. Del Pogue Homemade. Space Hobos. Ooh, I like a good mint chocolate chip. The Reloader Dude. But oh my gosh, that's a good one. That's right up there. Ooh, here's one good one. Peaches and Cream. That's by MSB 9021. We got SD3 Gunner. He likes his mint chocolate chip. Jay Bruce. There's a good one. Yeah, Dutch chocolate. There you go. Critter 9A. Dieting while eating fast food is not dieting. Merton Silicor. Maple. Well, I bet that would be good. I've never had it. T-Mock. Chocolate chip. Ooh, there you go. Good old Baskin Robbins. So I got to say, Reloader Dude, that butter pecan, that would be a really good one. I have to admit. All right, guys, you guys are great. I get Saturday and Sundays off, and I got to work Saturday, so I can't guarantee I'll do a live stream, but I might. So if I do, I'll announce it on the forum. So make sure you join the forum, 76highboy.com. Okay. Let's see. Rugers with whipped cream. You know it, buddy. Space Hobos, mint chocolate chip with 1 scoop Turkish coffee. Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm out of here. All right. Here we go. We're out in 3, Yeah. We are out in 3, 2, 1. God bless. We'll see you guys on the next.